So today we're going to talk about chapter 2. Let me just make sure I'm recording the lecture as well. Give me 1 second. Okay. So for online students, you can see this. What? Okay, awesome. And you can see the screen, right? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So before we start, a couple of announcements. The syllabus has been updated. It's just some minor changes to the quiz date. So please go ahead and download the newest version. Just a reminder, for your quizzes and your exams, there will be no makeups. So make sure you have a secure network and computer, and don't fall for the optimism bias. Who knows about the optimism bias? No? You do?
Didn't we just read about it in like one of the chapters?
I don't know. Did you?
I think we did. Maybe I could be getting confused with something else.
Okay. So this is something that we focus more on. Social psychology is we tend to do this a lot. Is that we think that we are luckier than average people. So if I ask you, how likely are you gonna fall from a bike when you're riding a bike? Are you more likely than average or less likely than average? Most people will say less likely than average, right? But that's not possible if we're talking about statistics, right? It's gonna be average. But most people would think they are luckier. So this is the case here too. Don't think that, yeah, my computer is fine, my Wi-Fi is fine. I have this every semester happening to students. Oh, my computer just shut down for no reason. What else? My Wi-Fi just disconnected. So it might happen to anyone. Make sure you have a secure network. Everything's on the syllabus, so if you don't know what to do, like a secure network or a computer, what that means, go check out the syllabus. All right. Also, today is the last day to drop the class. So something to consider when you are thinking about this is the workload for this class. You might see that, okay, the workload might be different from other intro classes if you have friends in other classes. Consider that. But I promise it's not hard. It's just like it might seem a lot you have to read every week and do weekly quizzes, but they're easy. So it's up to you. Some people like that, some people don't. Some people like to have their grades solely based on 3 exams. Other people might like more opportunities. So there's a little bit more rooms for mistakes. It's up to you. And then teaching style, including my exit. If you can't stand it, if you don't like my teaching style, feel free to drop it, because everyone has their own preferences, right? And I can't just ask every single person, how do you want me to teach? And then I'll try to accommodate every single person. It's just not possible. Also, we might have to do online classes in the later semester. I'm not sure yet, but it's a possibility. If you know that, yes, I hate online studies or I hate online classes, I absolutely cannot do it. You might need to talk to me or maybe just drop the class, because there's a possibility that we might have to do online classes later. All right. And then, last class, my color was flipped up. And no one told me the whole time.
I didn't even know.
Bruh, like, why would you do me like that? I was like cruising around campus with my colors flipped up. I think it's because when I was driving, my seatbelt was like, got it up, and then it's kind of tight, so I didn't realize it. But I didn't realize it until I went back home and I edited the video. I was like, what the heck's that? And I was like, that was embarrassing, but come on. I will tell you if, if something like that happens.
I did not notice.
You did not notice? Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. But if it happens again, let me know. All right, so for chapter 1, we talked about what psychology is, right? And we talked about the subdisciplines, the difference between sociology and psychology. We also talked about individual differences, as well as the history of psychology. We mentioned some different theories and some famous people. Do you have any questions on what we talked about last week? Good? Okay. So here's the muddiest point based on the attendance. I will check your attendance, see like what you learned, and try to find if people have any confusions. So phobias are developed by negative experience, so they're learned. How many of you agree? Okay, a lot of you, right? Okay, so behaviorism, they believe so. However, in reality, many phobias, they are developed by negative experience and they're learned, but some could be due to genetics or the changes in the brain. So it's not like fact, it's just according to behaviorism.
So it just depends on what lens you're looking at through then.
Yeah. Yep. So if you're behaviorist, you probably say, yes, I believe that phobias are developed by negative experience. I think that's pretty extreme in my opinion, but some people do believe that. All right. So everyone understand it, right? So that's just the behaviorism's belief. It's not a fact. Okay. For today's agenda, we are going to talk about why we do research and some research methods. So let me ask you, is psychology just common sense? Yes or no? No? Okay. Have you heard people say, yes, psychology is common sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, right? So the short answer is no, of course not. Otherwise, there's no need to be in class to learn about psychology, right? So now let's do a class activity, and I'm going to split the class into 2 groups. You guys will be group 1, and you'll be group 2. For online students, pick a number that you like. If you're group 1, stay with group 1, and then if you're group 2, stay with group 2. Okay. So now group 1, please keep your eyes open, and group 2, close your eyes. Okay? All right, we good? Okay, next. For group 1, now close your eyes. Group 2, open your eyes. Okay? Okay? Now both groups, open your eyes. You guys can see, right? Okay, good. So group 1, please raise your hands if you have heard of it and you think it makes sense. Group 1, yeah, all right? So a lot of you. Group 2, raise your hands if you have heard of it and you think it makes sense. A lot of you, right? Okay, so actually, I showed you the exact opposite phrase. So for group 1, they saw opposites attract. For group 2, they saw birds of a feather flock together, which means similar people find each other. So they're complete opposite, but you heard of it, and you think it makes sense, right? So which one of the above is correct, or we say more accurate? What do you guys think? You can take a guess too. Ethan, right?
I don't really think that either is correct because I feel like they're both just made for specific like situations.
Okay.
They're supposed to state like meaning when there isn't really too much.
Okay. If you see it that way, yes. How about we just talk about emotion, not emotion, relationship, friendship or romantic relationship in this perspective? Which one is more accurate?
Yeah.
Cameron? Okay.
Okay, so I feel like they're kind of both in the same or in like similarly correct, because one is about like people going and finding something as opposed to when you say opposites attract, you mean you might be drawn to something, but
Okay.
you might be hesitant to go towards it, even if you're attracted to it.
Okay. So you think that both.
It's more about the external like circumstances with like being attracted to something as opposed to finding.
Gotcha. So it's either you taking the initiative or it's the environment.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other opinions? Try to remember your name. Molly? No. What's your name?
Riley.
Riley. Sorry.
I do believe that opposites attract because like it's not your normal and you seem like attracted to things that aren't like what you're surrounded by.
Okay. Can you give me like a example when you see opposites attract?
I'm very like extroverted and for some reason like when people are shy, I just gravitate towards them and I want to like, I'm like, oh like come do this with me and I want to like bring them out of their shell and I think
Okay.
it's not always, but I think it's just really fun to be around and
Gotcha.
when they're around you, they kind of like open up and you see that side that you don't normally see in people.
So are you trying to help them, or are you trying to study them, or are you trying to?
I'm shy with people. Like when I'm around other like I guess extroverted people, I kind of get annoyed.
Oh, okay,
because they're
gotcha.
Too much like me.
So based on your experience, you feel more comfortable or enjoy playing, hanging out with.
It sounds so bad now that like I'm.
No, it's normal.
My
Like.
agrees because she has extroverted friends, even though
Uh-huh.
she's like the quiet one. But it sounds. I swear, it's not like a song. I like shyer friends. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no one's judging, and it's like completely normal. We're people, right? And we're social animals. We tend to fall in groups. It's perfectly normal to have preferences. All right. Very good. Luis. Right.
I think like the phrase like birds of a feather flock together is better because people are like sometimes too afraid to go outside their comfort zone and go against something that is like unknown or like the complete opposite. So they would rather attract to like people that are similar, same like ideas and all that stuff, or
Okay.
so they feel more confident and like safer around like different things.
Okay. Do you have any specific example?
Specific example. I could just think like I don't know, like if my hobby, like your hobby is basketball, right? And I also like basketball. I can relate with you with more about like stuff about basketball, like playing and like the watching the sport and like just things about the sport, and I feel more comfortable because there's something common that we can talk about, and I don't have to worry about like, so how's the weather doing?
Okay, so you have common topics,
Yeah.
common interests, and it's easier to have certain topics to talk
Yeah,
about.
like
right?
easier to interact, it feels
Okay.
safer.
Okay, very good. So we have people saying it depends on the situation, depends on the perspective, and then you agree with opposite attracts, and you agree with similar people find each other's. Yes.
I think he kind of gave me more insight into. I feel like it's kind of a time thing. Like when you're ready, or like when you're first starting something, you're gonna feel more like inclined to be with people that are more like you.
Okay.
And when you're more comfortable, then you're gonna be like, oh, this is more interesting, so I'm gonna go see what this is about. Blah, blah,
Gotcha.
blah. So I think it's more of a timing thing.
Okay. So you lean more towards.
I would say you'd lean more towards flocking together.
Okay.
Like in the beginning, when you're like less comfortable, and then when you're more comfortable, you'll go towards the opposite.
Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? Yes. What's your name?
Well, now it's 2 against 1.
Yeah.
Back her up. I think that maybe initially it might be easier, but I think long term you're more drawn to opposites because you grow, like you learn a lot more than
Yeah.
you learn if you're talking to someone who's super similar. And so I think, it might be easier in the beginning, but naturally you want to be with people who are very different or very opposite. So I had to back her up. Didn't
Okay.
want to be. Didn't want to be.
she does bring up like a good point. Like one of the reasons, like it's been like talked about sometimes, like you grow because either you fail or someone points something out that's you're wrong, and the only way if you can point that figure that out is either like someone just telling you that's like has a different mindset, but like still it's iffy topic to be honest. Go both ways.
I feel like it's
Well,
really
if you have to choose. All right. What's your name?
Ariana.
Ariana? Okay. You had your hands up, right?
Yeah, my name's Marcus.
Marcus. Okay.
I was going to say, like, if you're looking for, like, a partner or even, like, just a friend, wouldn't you want somebody that has, like, common interests with you? Like,
Are you asking me or asking?
yeah, just, like, everybody in general. Like,
Well, if I tell you, I will give you the answer.
like, wouldn't you want somebody that has common interests with you so you don't just, like, get bored with that person? Like, say, like, you're in a relationship, like, or your wife, she's interested in, like, whatever she's interested in, and you're interested in whatever you're interested in, like, y'all can't have, like, activities to do together and stuff like that.
That's a good question. If I asked you that question, how would you answer?
Like,
Yeah.
doesn't that just make like more sense to have, like, want to be with somebody that has common interests?
So, if I understand this correctly, you will want someone who has similar interests with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good. Yes.
Okay, I have a good example for
Uh-huh.
that. So my sister and her husband. My sister's super loud and very extroverted, and her
Uh-huh.
husband's really quiet.
It's not weird.
So it's like they balance each other out because when she gets too wound up, he's like, chill.
Mhm.
And then it's like if he's not being social enough, she goes and's like,
Okay.
be social. But they do tons of stuff together. Like they love golf, they love shopping plans, all that stuff.
So would you say they're more different than they're similar, or they're more similar than they're different?
I'd say they're more different than they are similar, but they have a lot of things they do enjoy together.
Okay, all right.
This is a whole boys versus girls.
Yes, I'll take one more. Oh, wait, what's your name?
Lillian.
Lillian? All right. Nikki, right? All right.
Okay, so I think, based on like the whole like relationship thing, I feel like it has to do with like what it is that you guys are talking about. Because if it's like values or like religion or like even like political affiliation, I
Mhm.
think that you want somebody who's similar to you rather than opposite.
So it depends on the topics.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would say religions and values, you will want someone who's similar, but what would be the opposite?
I'm just an example that you guys told me, do you know, like, are you loud or are you like super quiet or you know?
So personality? Okay. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's take a look at online students. Similar. Okay, so most of them agree with similar. Based on research, opposites don't attract. Just based on research in general. And people prefer those who are similar, and they also tend to stay together longer. That's a good question. How they measure it is they measure their personality traits, their interest, and then measure how long they stay together. It can be romantic relationship, it can be friendship. In general, what they found is people like those people who are similar to them. And another funny thing is people actually prefer names similar to them. Like if you have a name start with F, people find that they are more likely to have friends names starting with F than other letters. It's just based on stats. And you might find it, oh, that's so weird, but we're going to talk about those in more details, such as mere exposure effects and all that fun stuff in the social psychology chapters. All right, what's the application? Learning this. You don't know?
Become the best love doctor out there.
Yeah, so what did you learn from this? Like, how do you apply this to your real life? You don't know? So straightforward. Well, first of all, psychology is not common sense, right? We have to do studies to learn how people behave, what people think. and you can find someone who's like you. If you find someone that's so different, you might be interested in them first. Could be curiosity or could be something. I don't know, but it's just, let's talk about probability. You're more likely to have altercation with them when you have differences. It might not happen to every single person, but let's just say in general, you're more likely to have conflicts with people who are not like you. Does that make sense? Okay. It's not like avoid those people. Still interact with them, but when you make life choices, like finding a wife, husband, maybe take into consideration, right? All right. Let's do a question. So people tend to favor members of their own group over members of other groups, even if the groups were divided by simply flipping a coin, which is an arbitrary criteria. It doesn't even make sense sometimes. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Agree? Okay, most people. Who disagree? Oh, don't worry about peer pressure. If you disagree. Oh, so everyone agrees.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you think that, let's say we have two groups right now. I'm flipping a coin, and then let's say you're group 1, group 2, group 1, group 2. And then I'll give group 1 $10. Would you think that they're more likely to split with their own group than the other group?
Yeah.
Even though you just split it up with like random reason. Would you think that would be the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually you guys are pretty smart. So that's what they found in the study. Based on some simple rule like division, people will prefer their in-group. And we're gonna talk about that in more details. People are more likely to be romantically attracted to people that they are with after experiencing any type of arousal, such as watching scary movies, riding a roller coaster. Yes or no? Yes, raise your hands. Okay. No? So you say no? Okay. So would you think that if you take a friend out and then you scare them a lot, do you think they will be more romantically attracted to you? Or you make them aroused?
Well, like, you put someone in, whenever that happens, both parties get into like a vulnerable state. And so it's the idea is like this person, either like friend or like just, or a partner, saw me in this vulnerable state, maybe I can trust them. That type of like mentality. Also go into the chemical part of it too.
So what you're suggesting is more of a share of experience.
Yes.
It's not about arousal.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think? Yes.
There was a study done like a while back that's like what you should do on first date should be like more exciting, like laser tag, like just fun stuff, because then they'll see you as a fun person rather than like just going on a coffee date, because like say you can't make up conversation, they start to think like you're more of a boring person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think of it as the like arousal part, but they'll see you more as like an exciting person and a character.
Gotcha. So like first impression.
Say again?
First impression.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So the short answer is yes. The reason is what we call misattribution, and we're going to talk about that in more details if you want to learn about it. Is when we are aroused and when we don't have the time to identify where that arousal comes from, you attribute it to the person that you're with. So you think that you're aroused because of this person, and then you're more likely to attract it to this person, which is pretty fun. And the lesson here is go to scary movies and roller coasters on your first date. Right. Okay, so why do we do research? We know that psychology is not just common sense, right? That's why we need to do research. And the goals of psychology is to describe a behavior or phenomenon, to make accurate predictions of people's behavior. So we want to predict what people would do in certain situations, right? And then we want to demonstrate some kind of control in that situation. And then to explain the person's behavior and the person's attitudes, the person's reaction. So that's the goal of psychology. Questions? Good. Okay. Okay, so scientific methods. We mentioned this in the first class, right? Psychology is based on science. We need to use scientific methods to learn. So we have 5 steps to conduct research. The first one is observe, second one is predict, third one is test, and then interpret, and then communicate. We're gonna go through them one by one, so don't worry about memorizing everything or understanding them for now. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on. If you need to stop me, to pause, to ask questions, please feel free to. So first, we need to observe. We need to find a phenomenon or a behavior that we're interested in. So for example, in our lab, we study emotions. And we study different kinds of emotions. Some of my colleagues studies the emotion of awe. I study the emotion of love. And my advisor studies a lot of negative emotions, such as anger, boredom, what else? Frustration. So we study how they affect people. Those are the topics that we are interested in. And a lot of researchers are interested in different topics. So first is to observe. And then we need to make a prediction based on our observation. In order to make a prediction, we need to know the variables of interest, and we need to know how to operationalize them. So for variables, they are what we are interested in and what we are going to measure in the research. Those are a factor or characteristics that is measured or manipulated in our research. For example, it can be people's age, gender, education levels, a lot of other stuff that you might be interested in. So those will be variables. And then operationalization, that's how we are measuring those variables. And they are the methods used to measure the variable. For example, we have self-reports, we have physiological measures, we have observing behaviors, etc. So we have many different ways to measure the variables that we're interested in. Okay. Questions? Yes.
Is it like psychology, the part about the variables, is it hard to control sometimes?
What do you mean, like
there's like the idea of like sometimes there's some variables like in some conditions that you can't really control, like in chemistry it's sometimes really hard to control, like the current of like electrons and stuff like that. And there's things that are like out of your control. Is there a lot of things, is there a lot of variables in psychology that are like just out of your control?
Oh yeah, of course. We can control pretty much anything. Like I can't control participants' gender. I can't control their age, right? I can't control pretty much anything. However, we can control something that's from the environment. Let's say the lighting. How many of you know that the color and the lighting of the room will affect people's emotions and their behavior? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
So we can control those, right? In an experiment, we can make all the lightings the same, all the colors the same. So we know that, okay, we have these findings. It's not about colors. So we can eliminate that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we can control to a certain extent. Okay, good. Wearing the gloves is like so hot, like my sweat just comes down.
Yeah.
But I don't want to touch like this area. All right, good question though. Any other questions? Good. All right. What time is it? Okay. So now let's do a class activity. Let's say I want to measure how aroused people are under certain situation. So variable, what is the variable of interest here? I couldn't hear when you guys all.
Arousal.
Arousal? Do you guys agree? Arousal? Yes, very good. So arousal will be the variable of interest here. So how would you measure arousal? I'll let you guys talk about it. Let's have a discussion.
I think I just see it from like you could also see it as like changing
Yes.
What like definition of arousal are we talking about? There's what do you think arousal is? What do you think arousal is? It could be like excited, like you're aroused by like a situation, like spooked or something like that, or it could be in like the emotional like partner way. Okay. But yeah, so like love pressure, how they act, how way. If you know that a drastic change in like just mannerism.
You guys have your conclusions already?
Sure.
Okay, I'll take some volunteers. What's your name?
Kyle.
Kyle?
Yeah.
All right.
So Harvard and I over here thought that you could measure arousal by like someone's heart rate.
Heart rate? All right. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's your name?
Ella.
Say that.
Ella?
Ella?
Yes.
Okay. If I didn't pronounce it correctly, just let me know.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
So Claire and I said body language.
Body
If
language.
you're around someone like you're aroused by, like you'll like tense up sometimes or blush or like stutter.
Okay. So like more about their language or their
Yeah,
behavior.
How they
Okay.
react, not even like really understanding.
So their reaction. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. I think you first. Yes.
We
What's your
said
name?
that you could measure it through like personal assessment, or like have them report after whatever experiment happens, or we also thought maybe something in the blood like serotonin, or
Okay.
you could measure that or something.
Okay. So blood test
Right.
or self-report.
Right.
That's interesting. Let me ask you, how did you define arousal in this case?
We didn't really talk about definition, probably
Okay.
just like excitement.
So how would you ask people if you asked them to self-report? Like, how aroused are you, or how do you ask them?
Probably something like that, and then we would define it in the assessment.
Gotcha. Okay. The reason that I'm asking, what's your name?
Maddie.
Maddie?
Yes.
Maddie. Okay. Cool. The reason that I asked you is that I study the emotion of love, and we know that we have different kinds of love, right? We have like intimacy love, brotherhood love, romantic love. What else? Sexual arousal. Sometimes people say that's love too, right? And I did a study and I asked undergrads to self-report. It does not work. They would not be honest. I'm telling you that. They're not honest. So yeah, okay, very good. So blood test, self-report maybe. Yes.
With some things like excitement or fear, you could test like levels of sweat that happen
Sweat,
in like stressful
okay.
situations.
Very good, very good. So yes, those are good answers. So heart rate, sweat, those are physiological measurements. Self-report, blood test. Yes, very good. So you guys know the idea what the variables are and how do you quantify it, like operationalize it, right? Okay, very good. Let's do. What is that? Oh, I think it's. What?
you could mute everyone by force.
Okay, let's see. Hey, online students, can you guys mute yourself?
The arrow right next to the microphone.
I see it. I muted. All right.
Like construction is around this.
Okay. All right. Next, let's do another. See, I want to measure how aggressive people are under certain situation.
God.
What is the variable of interest here?
Aggression.
Aggression. Very good. So how would you measure that? All right, go ahead and talk about it.
Like heartbreak would be one because that's not it's defined as like specific he's aroused. Like, I don't know. I think it's more like it could be more like response. Like what is this response to this? I can talk about it out too. Like subjective and opinion based. I believe I would need
That's kind of
yeah, I
No, that's okay.
All right. Now let's hear your thoughts. If you haven't speak up in the class yet, just let's say, I don't know how to say it, be more confident, or don't be afraid, just express your opinion. I like to hear different voices. I'm going to try to have someone who haven't spoken yet. You told me your name. Carter. I'm sorry. All right.
I think they would be pretty honest with the self-report. Like, people might lie when they're talking about how aroused they are, but if they're talking about aggression, like that's nothing to do.
Are you sure? If I asked you, someone, like, let's say you don't like a group of people, and I ask you, would you be aggressive towards them? Usually people.
Not in that scenario, but like if it's like after the fact and you just sit down like one-on-one, like, how
Gotcha.
do you want to have?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're the person like what you described, good for you. You're honest. You're that's a good person. But you know, a lot of people are not like that. Especially nowadays. I don't want to talk about politics, but you know, right now, if you talk about something that's like super sensitive, like it might cost you jobs or something else. So sometimes people are not honest. And just the reality. Yeah. All right. Very good. You.
I feel like again it'd be like body language, like you could see maybe like they're like clenching their fists.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. What's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas. All right. Cool. Cool. And then. Yeah.
Claire.
Claire.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, if you can you track like emotions in the brain, like your brain activity?
That's a good idea. So, in the field of emotions, do you think that it's connected to the brain activity?
Yeah.
Okay. So some people believe that. They think that if certain area lights up, it means that you have certain emotions. But it's a long debate. Some people don't believe in that. So.
Do you?
Me? I want to say maybe for some emotions, because the brain is so complex. When it lights up, it might be you're trying to understand the situation. You're not expressing your emotions, and there's this time differences. Like when the brain lights up and when you have the emotion, there's time differences, right? So yeah, I don't know. Good thoughts though. Yes.
I think you could also do like heart rate.
Heart rate?
Where you get like
Yeah.
aggressive, you kind of get.
Yeah, very good. You get aroused when you have aggression. I'll take two more. You.
We just figured we can use like almost like a physical observer and just basically take like 4 acting outright angry.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of rate them on a scale and just using the focus of, okay,
Yeah.
how was it on the scale?
Yeah, very good, very good. And then I'll take one more.
Okay, I was just kind of going off like the brain thing. Do you think polygraphs are accurate?
Polygraphs, to a certain point, but you can train to,
Like passwords?
yeah, it's kind of hard. It's like you can train your micro expression, but it's very hard.
Is that the line test? Yeah. So
Yeah, the polygraph is lying test. So.
There's been studies and like cases that people are able to train their body and their like muscle memory and stuff like that to be able to pass those type of like micro tests.
Yeah, and also if you're a psychopath or sociopath, you can pass the test easily. Yep. All right, very good. So like teachers do that a lot. Like how many times the kids have cussed, how many times they punched the other kids, something like that. Very easy. All right. So any questions regarding variables and operationalization? Yes.
Can there be variables that like for like the one we did arousal and hate and someone said like heart pressure and like not heart pressure, I mean like heart rate, can you get them like mixed up sometimes?
Yeah, so that's why we tend to have multiple measures to cross-examine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty good. Because sometimes we don't know whether that's the cause.
Yeah, like maybe instead of like I don't know how you would come to this conclusion, but you're doing a test on anger and somehow your conclusions come out like he's aroused, like.
Yeah, well, so yeah, there's a correlation, and when you feel certain emotions, it could be some other emotions involved as well. So, very good, very good. Okay, so the third step is to test the hypothesis, and to do that, we need to select appropriate study designs and measurements. So, what makes a good measure? A basic principle is to make sure the measure is both reliable and valid. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes. I think we have 5 minutes left, right? How much time do we have left?
It's 12.
7 minutes. Okay, still have some time. So reliability, this is suggesting the test or the measure gives us the consistent results over time.
Repetitiveness.
Or trials, yes. So if we try to measure our weight, the scale will be a reliable measure because every time you step on it, you get a certain number, and it should be consistent, right? If you get a different number for every 5 minutes, you think the scale is broken, right? So that's reliability. If a measure has low reliability, it means that you get different results every time. If you have a high reliability, it means that the measure gives you the same results every single time if other variables are controlled. Okay? Questions on reliability?
Can high reliability can also be counted as like bad?
I don't think so. Why?
Like don't you need like wouldn't it be more accurate to have like differences than an exact amount?
I think what you mean is to have different tests to test different things.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. But you always want to have a reliable test. Okay. Validity. This means the test is really measuring the variable that we are interested in and not something else. So let's say I'm interested in my weight, and someone told me, yeah, I'll give you this measuring tape. That's not a valid measure, right? And in this case, the scale will be the valid measure. Does that make sense? Okay. So low validity means will lead you to inaccurate conclusions and predictions because you're not measuring what you're trying to measure. And then high validity will give you accurate conclusions and predictions. All right. So now I'm going to give you this graph to help you understand. If you have multiple trials and they are consistent, but they're not on your target, it means that you have a reliable scale, but it's not valid because you're not getting the target. All right? And here you have all the results scattered around the target, but they are not consistent. So that's not reliable, but somewhat valid because it's all around the target. Right? But here, everything is skewed from the target. You don't have the other side. It's not reliable and not valid. And then lastly is both reliable and valid because you're consistent on the target. But at first it might be a little bit hard to remember all of them, but if you read them for a couple times and try to understand it, it should be pretty straightforward. Okay? Any questions so far? No questions?
Can you say valid again?
Valid?
Describe valid again.
So validity is you're measuring what you're trying to measure. So you're measuring the target. Let's say I'm trying to measure anger. I need to make sure from the beginning I'm eliciting anger, right? And then my measure is asking them about anger instead of sadness or something else.
So like the tools you're using to measure are being able, they can measure the thing you're testing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are trying to measure something that we're interested in, but we don't know that's what we're trying to measure at the time. Maybe afterwards you find inconsistency and then you realize, oh, that's not what I'm trying to measure. It happens too sometimes. All right. Very good, very good. I think the textbook also gives you a little bit more explanation and examples. If you still are confused about this, feel free to let me know. Okay, so practice questions. Dr. Summer said Terry did a bad job on his essay. 2 days later, Terry submitted the same essay and asked Dr. Summer to read it. However, this time Dr. Summer said that Terry did a great job. Is this a reliability problem or a validity problem?
Reliable.
Reliability. Very good. Don't do this in school though. All right. If they ask you to submit a paper, don't submit the same thing. All right. John weighs himself. The scale says 190 pounds. A minute later, he weighs himself on the same scale, and this time it says 270 pounds. Is this a reliability problem or a validity problem?
Reliability.
What was it? A. Okay. Reliability. Very good. On our first exam, I will ask you to answer some chemistry question. Is this a reliability problem or a validity problem?
Validity.
Validity?
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Very good. Okay. So for our next class, we are going to talk about descriptive research. And do you guys want lecture outlines for each chapter?
Yeah, sure.
Yes? Okay. I will post that on eCampus. Just pay attention and then you should be able to find it. That's it.